prosecution implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Okay. Well, that's really bad. And this, as we've talked about, has gone to a different level here. It's one thing for you and me to sit and talk about it. It's another thing entirely for the paperwork itself to land on Pam Bondi's desk. But, as I've told you over and over again, these people have to go to prison, but I'm not telling you they will. Powerful people oftentimes don't go down. Let's see what Josh has to say. Joining me now, my friend Josh Hammer, host of the Josh Hammer Show. Josh, let's start with Barack Obama himself, and then we'll move on to the other things. Barack Obama needs to go to prison for this, but I'm also not naive. Can he go to prison for this?
Jesse, I want to be told that he can. I also think that Barack Obama's personal activity in the Russia collusion delusion is irrefutable and undeniable, as many like Lee Smith have been saying for many, many years. And now Tulsi Gabbard is finally revealing, for all to see, and with this tremendous public service of the declassification. But I do not see it happening unless there is something glaring that I am missing. And I don't think that I'm missing anything quite that glaring. This is a pretty straightforward application of the U.S. Supreme Court case that just came down this past summer. We just did this idea of trying to prosecute a former president. In that case, it was President Donald J. Trump. We got to the Supreme Court. We had the case Trump versus the United States. The court, as many of us predicted, kind of gives us this multi-layered tier of presidential conduct. But the court said very clearly that there is absolute immunity from future criminal prosecution for any actions that were taken in office for core presidential activity. And no matter how egregious the underlying conduct is here, and it is deeply, deeply offensive and egregious, it is nonetheless core presidential activity. I hate to say it because it involves the direction of the IC, of the intelligence community, the CIA, the FBI, NSA. I mean, this is bread and butter Article 2 presidential power type stuff. So I'm open to the other arguments. I would love to be proven wrong, but I tend to be a realist about these things, and I love to give people false hope, so I just don't see it happening, unfortunately.
No, I love that you're a realist, Josh. I do. Let me play the very uneducated, angry citizen, and I don't have to play that. That's exactly what I am. So you are telling me that a president is allowed to create false information using the Central Intelligence Agency, attack his political opponents with that, and he still has immunity from doing that?
So, I mean, when you phrase it like that, and look, I really, really want to say no, but if you think about what he's actually doing there, he is directing the intelligence agencies to purportedly act in accordance with gathering intelligence. Now, we know that's not what he's actually doing there. He's trying to create this whole fraud, this hoax on the American people, trying to handicap the Trump presidency, in this case, before it even started, back during the transition period. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened, by the way, when Jim Comey tapped Bob Mueller. The Mueller probe takes up literally more than half, over 2 years of the 4 years of the first Trump term. So the Obama plot was unfortunately phenomenally successful in undermining much of the Trump presidency there. But this does seem to me like it falls under the absolute immunity category of the Trump versus United States opinion at the Supreme Court. I'll give you an example of something that would not fall under the category of absolute immunity. If Barack Obama, there's these rumors of Barack and Michelle getting a divorce. If Barack Obama finds Michelle Obama sleeping with someone else and then in a fit of rage takes out a gun and shoots the guy dead there, okay, that's not core Article 2 presidential power. That's a local homicide for the Washington, D.C. prosecutor's office and the Washington, D.C. police. But something like this, unfortunately, I do think Jesse would be immunized there. And I appreciate what the administration is doing very, very, very much there. But I think they're getting a little ahead of their skis when it comes to the specific threat of prosecuting Barack Obama.
Okay. All right. Let's set him aside then. That sucks, but that's life. Who can go down, Josh? John Brennan, James Comey? I mean, to use your position, high up position in these powerful agencies, to politic on behalf of Democrats and attack the incoming Republican president, that sounds like a crime that should send you to prison for the rest of your life. Can they go down?
So look, I mean, I'm the lawyer, right? So I'll play the part of lawyer. I mean, here's how it works. When someone does something really, really bad, you still need a specific statute that outlines what that person did wrong. And it has to be within the period of the statute of limitations. The statute of limitations cannot have expired, unless of course you're Alvin Bragg, and then you somehow find a way to get over the 5-year statute of limitations for the misdemeanor there, and then the ridiculous Stormy Daniels prosecution. So there are some very creative ways here, and we can talk about that a little bit more if you want to. But, Jesse, upon looking here, I haven't necessarily seen Pam Bondi, the DOJ, outline what their theory of the case is yet. That's probably because I'm not sure they have one yet. This is very much a new unfolding situation there. There are a few possible statutes that come to mind. There's 18 U.S. Code Section 242, which is a federal criminal conspiracy to deprive constitutional rights. That has, I believe, a 5-year or at most a 7-year statute of limitations, but I believe it's a 5-year statute of limitations. There's the Espionage Act, I guess, in theory. I mean, that is what the Democrat lawfare complex used against Donald Trump in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. It's a very, very sloppy fit here. There's seditious conspiracy. I mean, conspiracy to literally commit treason, which is basically what Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump himself are saying there. I think that also has a 5 to 7 year statute of limitations there. So you would have to start to get a little creative here when it comes to trying to start the tolling of the statute of limitations at a later date. I don't pretend to know exactly how that would work, but that's the kind of thing that you would basically have to do. So it's possible, but I think that there are potentially glaring statute of limitations problems, which makes sense, frankly, given that we're talking about conduct that took place at this point almost a decade ago.
What about jurisdiction, Josh? Everybody and their brother knows a Democrat cannot be convicted of anything in Washington, D.C. because it's only communists who live there, therefore only communists in the jury pool. John Solomon and others have said this case could very well be moved to Florida. What say you?
Well, there's no reason in theory why it couldn't be moved out of Washington, D.C. I can't necessarily think of a reason why it hasn't necessarily be in Washington, D.C., but yeah, he's right. John Solomon is right that assuming that you have a case, assuming that you've somehow managed to solve the statute of limitations problem, you found a statute that fits the crime there, and we've dot all the I's and crossed all those T's, then yeah, it's entirely possible that a jury pool could basically sink this before it even gets going there. That's always an issue, of course, when it comes to these blue city jurisdictions there. Look, Jesse, I guess kind of zooming out here, it's very frustrating because I want to say that what I really feel, which is that this was treason. I mean, this was horrific behavior, and it is loathsome. It is offensive to me as an American citizen, as an American patriot. It is deeply offensive that there has not been a smidgen of justice other than the former FBI attorney Kevin Kleinsmith, who forged a FISA surveillance warrant to spy on Carter Page. He's the only one who's paid any price, and he just had 12 months probation and 400 hours of community service. So he got absolutely nothing. So I hate the fact that none of these people are doing perp walks and handcuffs and serving time behind bars. But again, I have to play the part of lawyer here, and it's tough. It's an uphill slog, honestly.
All right. Does Pam Bondi have the chops to try this case, or is she going to have to go special counsel?
This seems to me like it would be a good fit for a special counsel. If the DNI Tulsi Gabbard is as serious as she seems to be about all the declassifications, which we've seen a lot of this thus far, it kind of corroborates much of what we've already known for years about the extent to which John Brennan and others were involved there. And this really is, indeed, this is one of the biggest scandals in modern American political history there. It is absolutely the kind of situation where a special counsel would be called for. Now, it's worth noting, and I'll just flag it, that we've kind of sort of already been down this road before. It was the Durham probe. This was back when the former U.S. Attorney for Connecticut, John Durham, when he was called in to be a special counsel to do exactly this back during the first Trump term. And ultimately, John Durham came back with a conclusion that was basically a lame duck, where he didn't actually end up recommending any specific criminal prosecution. So there's a potential risk here of deja vu. The great New York Yankees catcher Yogi Berra might have called it deja vu all over again. But there have been new developments between the Durham probe and now when it comes to what Tulsi has declassified. So I think that's probably the way to go here. But again, I'm very hesitant to get the people's hopes up there because we have kind of tried this already with the Durham probe, and the Durham probe was basically a big fat nothing burger, unfortunately.
Okay, finally, final one. Adam Schiff, is he going down for mortgage fraud, or is this more wishful thinking?
Okay, so that is probably the highest probability item here. I'm not going to confidently predict that he is, but there is no real kind of glaring kind of structural legal issue that leaps off the page there. There's not a Trump versus United States Supreme Court opinion on presidential immunity. There's no kind of glaring statute of limitations problem there. At that point, you're kind of getting into a factual dispute. May the best lawyer win. Pound the table, convince the jury, that sort of thing. So that's the kind of courtroom drama that I love, that you love, that we all love there. That strikes me as a much higher probability, frankly, if I'm just being very realistic, than what else we're talking about here.
He's the host of the Josh Hammer Show. If you want more of this stuff, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.